You've spent years being the reliable one, haven't you? Always there for everyone else, often at the quiet expense of your own peace. You answer texts even when you're utterly exhausted, say yes when every cell in your body wants to scream no, and deep down you secretly believe your worth is measured by how quickly you reply. But let's be real for a moment. What if this so-called virtue, this constant availability, is actually a beautifully crafted velvet-lined cage? It feels comfortable, even necessary, but it traps you all the same. Carl Jung, that profound explorer of the human psyche, warned us that the mask we wear to stay loved, what he so aptly called the persona, eventually starts wearing us. The moment you consciously decide to stop being that ever-present human subscription service, something profound happens. Everything changes. Your relationships shift, your self-respect begins to solidify, and even the often critical voice inside your head starts to whisper different truths. This isn't just about setting boundaries, it's about a deep psychological reorientation. Stay with me, because today we're walking through the exact internal and external shifts that can transform constant draining availability from a life sentence into an exhilarating launchpad for your authentic self. This isn't just theory, it's a practical roadmap to reclaiming your life, one unavailable moment at a time. Let's strip away the polite euphemisms and call the persona what it really is, a social insurance policy. It's the carefully constructed facade we present to the world, designed to ensure acceptance, love, or at the very least, avoid disapproval. We pay the premium for this policy with our most precious resources, our time, our energy, and often our midnight calm. Jung understood it as the necessary compromise between who we truly are in all our messy complexity and who society, our family, or even our friends expect us to be. It's not inherently bad. We all need a persona to navigate the world. The trouble, however, begins when this policy matures and we start confusing the payout, the likes, the gratitude, that occasional "you're a lifesaver," with genuine, unconditional love or self-worth. We become addicted to these external validations. Think about it. Every time you drop your plans, every time you stretch yourself thin to rescue someone who, frankly, refuses to learn their own lessons, you're not just helping them, you're reinforcing that mask. Your brain records this transaction, etching it into your neural pathways. Approval equals safety, boundaries equal risk. This isn't a conscious choice at first, but a subtle, insidious conditioning. After a decade or two of these micro-betrayals against your own deepest needs, that mask, that carefully curated persona starts to feel like your actual skin. It becomes so integrated that you can barely remember a time without it. You might even defend it thinking it is you. But here's the spoiler. A truth Jung would vehemently affirm, it isn't. It's a role. The very first, most courageous act of reclaiming your authentic life, of stepping onto the path of individuation, is simply admitting that you're wearing one. It's acknowledging that there's a difference between who you show the world and who you truly are, waiting patiently beneath the surface. This realization is the crack in the cage, the first breath of freedom. It's the moment you begin to disidentify from the persona, creating the necessary space for your authentic self to finally emerge. Imagine your absolute favorite restaurant, the one with the incredible food and atmosphere, suddenly announce that every single dish is now free, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. What do you think happens? By Tuesday, the line wraps around the block, snaking for miles. By Friday, the chef, once passionate and vibrant, is weeping silently into a pot of spoiled broth, overwhelmed and utterly depleted. That chef, my friend, is you. When your availability has no perceived price, when it's simply a given, people inevitably stop tasting the meal and start hoarding it. They take your time, your energy, your emotional labor, not because they're malicious, but because there's no incentive for them to value it. They don't have to. And while they're enjoying their free meal, your psyche is quietly picking up the tab. This isn't just about feeling tired, it's about a deep systemic drain. You start accumulating resentment, a simmering anger that you might not even consciously recognize. Brain fog becomes your constant companion, making it hard to focus, to think clearly, to even remember what you truly want. And then there are those dreaded 3 a.m. replays of conversations you never truly agreed to have, scenarios where you felt obligated, where you abandoned your own needs for someone else's convenience. Jung, with his profound understanding of the human energy system, never used the modern phrase people pleaser, but he described the exact same syndrome as psychic entropy. Think of it as a constant uncontrolled leakage of your vital life force. Your energy seeps out in countless small acts of overgiving until your entire system overheats, leaving you burned out and hollowed. Every unchecked, sure I can help, every reflexively offered solution, every unenthusiastic yes to something you dread is another silent crack in the radiator of your soul. Your internal resources, meant for your own growth and well-being, are siphoned off, leaving you running on fumes. This constant self-abandonment, driven by the persona's desire for approval, creates a deep deficit within you, making it impossible to engage with your true self or pursue your own path of individuation. Let's be absolutely clear about something crucial. Becoming unavailable is not the same as becoming cruel. It's not about being vindictive or deliberately ignoring people. Instead, it's a strategic, often necessary retreat. It's a temporary withdrawal, not a permanent exile from humanity. This distinction is vital for your own peace of mind and for communicating your shift effectively. You're not cutting people off, you're simply re-establishing your boundaries, honouring your own needs, and creating space for your authentic self to breathe. How do you start? Begin small, dedicate 1 hour a day perhaps, where your phone lives in another room, completely out of reach, or commit to 1 weekend a month where you genuinely disappear, into the woods for a hike, into your studio to create, or simply into your own living room with the curtains drawn, luxuriating in uninterrupted solitude. The first few times you do this, you'll likely feel phantom buzzes in your pocket. You'll experience an almost physical urge to check your messages, to see if you're needed, to ensure no one is upset. That, my friend, is the persona throwing a tantrum. It's the old programming, the deeply ingrained habit of seeking external validation, screaming for attention. Let it scream. Acknowledge the feeling, but don't engage with it. It will eventually quiet down. The brilliant Jungian analyst Marion Woodman used to say, the only way to hold on to yourself is to risk losing everyone else for a minute. Notice she said minute, not lifetime. This isn't about severing ties, it's about testing the strength of your own roots. Withdrawal in this context is a rehearsal for true presence. It teaches you the profound difference between being superficially needed, a utility for others, and being genuinely known, respected, and valued for who you authentically are. It creates the sacred space necessary for you to connect with your inner world, to hear your own voice, and to allow your true self to begin to guide your actions, rather than the expectations of others. This intentional withdrawal is a critical step in the individuation process, allowing you to disidentify from the collective and recenter on your own unique path. All right, let's talk about the part that most self-help gurus gloss over, the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to mention. When you stop being the human subscription service, when you start reclaiming your time and energy, some people will absolutely panic. This isn't a maybe, it's an almost certainty. They'll triple text, often with an escalating tone of urgency. They'll deploy the guilt trip, reminding you of all the times they were there for you, or more accurately, all the times you were there for them. And perhaps most famously, they'll play the classic "you've changed" card, usually delivered with a hint of accusation or disappointment. It's crucial to understand that this panic isn't actually about you, it's about the void you leave behind. It's about their sudden discomfort, the disruption of their established patterns, and the inconvenience of having to find another source for whatever emotional or practical support you used to provide. Jung called this the collective expectation. Groups, whether families, friendships, or workplaces, inherently prefer static identities. They like you in your predictable role, because predictable roles keep anxiety low. Your new boundary, your newfound unavailability, is like a stone dropped into still water. Ripples are not just inevitable, they're guaranteed. The friends who mourn the old you are often deep down mourning the convenience, not the person. They are lamenting the loss of an easy resource, not the absence of your unique spirit. This knowledge, while potentially painful, should steel your spine without turning it into bitterness. It's not a personal attack, it's a predictable systemic response to your individuation. As you disidentify from the persona, those who are deeply invested in that persona will naturally resist. Understanding this helps you navigate the backlash with a sense of calm and conviction, knowing that you're not doing anything wrong, you're simply choosing yourself. Here's where things get really interesting and genuinely rewarding. something quite curious and wonderfully clarifying happens around week 3 or 4 of your conscious unavailability, sometimes sooner, sometimes a little later. A handful of people, and often, surprisingly, they're the quiet ones, the ones who didn't demand much to begin with, will quietly adjust. They won't make a fuss, they'll text less, but when they do, it's meaningful, purposeful, and often genuinely engaging. They'll invite you for coffee without a hidden agenda, without a favour to ask simply because they enjoy your company. These, my friend, are the nascent roots of true relationships. These are the connections built on substance, on mutual respect, on genuine appreciation for you, not on your service or utility. Meanwhile, a different kind of sorting happens. The ones who only loved your utility, who valued what you could do for them rather than who you are, will gradually and inevitably drift away. They'll gravitate toward the next free buffet, the next readily available resource. Watching this sorting hat in action can feel brutal, even heartbreaking at first. It might sting to realize that some people only stuck around for what they could get. But I promise you, it's actually mercy in disguise. It's a profound act of clarity. You finally get to see with undeniable evidence who stays for the music when the jukebox runs out of coins, who truly values your presence over your performance. This winnowing process is an essential part of individuation. It clears the decks of superficial, draining connections, making space for authentic, reciprocal relationships to flourish. It allows you to invest your precious energy into people who see and cherish your true self, rather than the persona you've meticulously maintained. This isn't about being selfish. It's about being discerning. It's about honoring your energy and recognizing that true connection is always a two-way street, built on respect, not obligation. As the external demands quiet down, as fewer voices clamour for your attention, something truly remarkable happens within you. Your own voice gets clearer. It's no longer drowned out by the cacophony of others' needs and expectations. Decisions that once took days, mired in endless rumination and people-pleasing calculations, now take minutes. Why? Because the chaotic, anxious committee in your head, once populated by the projected opinions of everyone you knew, has been mercifully downsized. There are fewer conflicting voices, fewer demands for approval, and a much stronger sense of your own inner compass. Jung keenly observed that solitude isn't merely the absence of noise, it's the profound presence of the psyche itself. In that newly created internal space, that quiet sanctuary, you begin to meet parts of yourself you ghosted years ago. Remember that teenager who yearned to paint but was told to be practical? Or the 30-something who still dreams of learning Spanish but felt too busy, too obligated? They don't scold you for abandonment. Instead, they gently hand you the missing pieces of your soul, like long-lost luggage finally returned. These are elements of your authentic self, aspects of your unique potential that were repressed or neglected while you were busy maintaining your persona. The peace that follows this internal reunion isn't a passive quiet, a mere absence of conflict. No, it's an active coherence, a profound sense of integration. You stop frantically managing external perceptions and start consciously managing internal meaning. Your priorities become sharper, your values more defined, and your actions more aligned with your deepest desires. This is the emergence of the self as the guiding center of your psyche, moving beyond the ego's anxious demands. This shift allows for a new kind of strength and wholeness, where your inner world dictates your outer reality, rather than the other way around. You're not just existing, you're becoming. In Jungian terms, the shadow holds everything we deny, repress, or deem unacceptable in ourselves. It's the dark, unacknowledged side of our personality. And here's a fascinating insight. Chronic people-pleasers, those who constantly strive for external harmony, often carry a particularly potent secret shadow of rage. It's the anger, the frustration, the resentment accumulated from all those years of self-betrayal, of saying yes when they meant no, of sacrificing their own needs on the altar of others' expectations. When you begin to pull back your availability, when you start setting boundaries, that repressed rage can suddenly surface. It might manifest as biting sarcasm, unexpected irritability, or even a sudden, uncharacteristic door slamming. Don't panic. This isn't a sign that you're becoming a bad person. It's a sign that integration is finally happening. Integration, Jung taught us, always beats repression. This surfacing anger is actually an opportunity. Instead of stuffing it back down, ask the anger what it's protecting. Engage with it. Usually it's protecting a deeply wounded sense of self-respect that never had a voice, a part of you that felt constantly violated and unheard. Dialogue with it, yes, literally, on paper or in your mind. Ask, why so furious? And listen for the answer. Because you let them treat us like a vending machine. Because you let them walk all over us. Give that shadow a seat at the table of your consciousness. Acknowledge its validity, its pain, its protective instinct. Paradoxically, when you do this, when you integrate this previously denied part of yourself, you actually become safer company. Why? Because no one has to guess where the resentment leaks. You're no longer passively aggressive or subtly resentful. You're authentically assertive. You've brought a hidden, powerful part of yourself into the light, transforming it from a destructive force into a source of genuine strength and self-protection. This is a profound step in psychological integration, making you more whole and authentic. Before this profound shift, when you were constantly available, life often felt like it was happening to you. You were constantly reacting, putting out fires, responding to external demands, living in a perpetual state of emergency. After the shift, however, when you reclaim your time and energy, life begins to happen through you. This is a monumental transformation. Jung beautifully articulated this as moving from the ego as the center of your personality to the self as the true guiding center. The ego, in this context, is the anxious, busy manager, constantly trying to control, please, and react to the external world. The self, on the other hand, is the calm, wise investor, discerningly allocating your most precious resources, attention, energy, and time into what truly matters. When you're no longer ricocheting between everyone else's emergencies when the internal committee has been downsized, and you suddenly find yourself with an abundance of creative energy and focus. You start investing your attention, not in fleeting tasks, but in projects that genuinely outlive the weekend, projects that reflect your deepest values and aspirations. Maybe you finally launch that tiny business you've always dreamed of, or you dedicate yourself to planting a vibrant pollinator garden that nourishes both nature and your soul. Perhaps you finally volunteer for that cause that kept you awake at night anyway, but now you do it from a place of genuine enthusiasm, not obligation. The common thread in all these endeavors is this: you're actively shaping your reality instead of passively reacting to it. Your availability becomes selective, a conscious choice, rather than a scarce commodity begrudgingly dispensed. You start giving people the best of you, your focused attention, your authentic presence, your genuine enthusiasm, instead of just what's left of you, after everyone else has taken their share. This shift from reactive to creative is a hallmark of individuation, a testament to the power of aligning your actions with your innermost self. You become the author of your life, not just a character in someone else's story. Let's be honest, individuation, this path of becoming your true whole self, is often a solo trek for long, arduous stretches. It's a journey that, by its very nature, requires you to step away from the collective, to forge your own path, and to sometimes stand alone. Friends and family might applaud the concept of self-care and boundaries. They might even cheer you on in theory. But at 2 a.m, when you're wrestling with the gnawing fear that you're now perceived as selfish or difficult, you're typically on your own. There's no one there to hold your hand through that particular dark night of the soul. Jung was characteristically blunt about this. He famously stated, "Loneliness does not come from having no people about one, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself." He also implied that loneliness is not necessarily the absence of love, but the absence of meaning. The mile that feels lonely, that stretch of self-doubt and isolation, is actually the very mile where meaning crystallizes. It's where your values become unequivocally clear, where your inner compass is truly calibrated. It's in that solitude that you discover your deepest convictions, uninfluenced by external pressures. So, walk it. Embrace that lonely mile. The reward isn't a bigger crowd suddenly flocking to you. It's something far more profound. It's a deeper, richer echo within the smaller crowd that remains, the people who truly see and value you. And here's the magic. When you finally meet someone else who also did the lonely mile, who wrestled with their own shadow and emerged more whole, the conversation skips all the superficial small talk. It dives straight to the marrow, to the heart of what truly matters. You recognize a fellow traveler, a kindred spirit who understands the depth of your journey. This radical self-respect born from solitude allows for authentic presence and genuine connection, a core aspect of true individuation. If anything you heard today resonated with you, if it felt like it was addressed to you personally, I have a small request. In the comments below, write down the single sentence you most needed to hear from this discussion. No essays, no long explanations, just that one powerful sentence. Your future self will undoubtedly thank you for acknowledging that truth, and who knows, someone else might just borrow it for their own rescue. If you're looking for more conversations that treat psychology like a practical user manual for life, instead of an intimidating textbook, then consider hitting that subscribe button. Absolutely no pressure, though only if this channel genuinely earned your click. Ultimately, stopping your indiscriminate availability isn't some clever tactic to make people chase you or to play hard to get. In fact, it's the decisive, powerful move that ends the chase altogether. You cease to be the predictable button others press for instant comfort or convenience. Instead, you become the room they enter with respect, with an understanding that your presence is a gift, not a right. Carl Jung's profound truth, distilled to its essence, is beautifully simple. When you courageously withdraw the mask of the persona, what genuinely remains is the person who never needed external permission to take up space, to be seen, to be heard, to simply be. And everything that changes, your schedule, the quality of your relationships, the very inner weather of your soul, is just the world finally catching up to the undeniable fact that you are, at long last, truly home inside yourself. You've returned to your authentic core, the self, and that, more than any inspirational quote on a coffee mug, more than any fleeting external validation, changes absolutely everything.